everyone. As Laurie said, my name is Katie Farner, and I am a Superstar Director, proud mama to the Sunshine State Superstars family of teams. Woo-hoo. We got a couple of them right here in the front. So, normally when I start a presentation, I like to share my story with you because I think stories are super, super important. But I have got so much content here that I'm excited to share with you guys, so I'm going to dive right in if that's okay with y'all.
Yes.
Okay, but I will tell you, I joined in May of 2010, so I just celebrated my 9th Scentversary. So this ain't my first rodeo. So I will tell you that I've been around for a long time and I love this business. It's changed my life and it can change yours too. And this is the start of it, right? This is the catalyst. So anyway, so today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects in the universe, which is identifying and building leaders. So you are here because you want to find people in your team to work alongside to set goals and help them achieve those goals, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're here. Who's excited to do that? I don't know if you guys really realize this, but when we do that over and over and over again, that's really how we change our world. That's really how we change our communities, is when we help other people create the life that they want for themselves and their families. So it's a very exciting opportunity that we have to do that and to change people's lives for the better, theirs and our own at the same time. So I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you see the value in that. So what I have done is I have prepared my 10 best practices for identifying and developing leaders. So we're going to start with best practice number 1. And I'm sorry I don't have slides. The slide deck was kind of a pain this year, so we're just going to have some notes so you don't have to worry about slides. But I will read each of the 10 slowly. So the first one is focus on wide growth. Focus on wide growth. And right before this, I was actually in Lindsay Bates' class, which was fantastic. And it was one of the first things she said, focus on wide growth. You're going to hear it a lot. You're going to hear it consistently. And that's not because it just sounds pretty to say. It's because it's the truth. You are going to find more like-minded individuals, more people that you can work alongside when you have a wide net, when you sponsor a lot of people. So it has been an absolute integral role in my business of being able to promote to Superstar Director and maintain that title. It's one of the hardest titles to maintain because you have to have 4 first-generation directors. If you lose one, you lose title. So it's very hard to maintain, right? So part of maintaining that title is having a wide front line. So for me, about 5 years ago, I sat down with someone who I really respected in this business and asked them, how do I build a solid business? How do I get to Superstar Director and stay there? He told me one of the things I needed to do was have a goal of 100 frontline. All right. Who in this room hears 100 frontline and feels super intimidated by that? It's okay, you can raise your hand. When he said that to me, I literally was like, all right, I'm about to shut down this conversation. That's pointless. I honestly, at that point when he told me that, I didn't even know how many frontline I had. Who in this room would admit they don't know how many frontline they exactly have? Okay, cool. I was in your shoes. I didn't know how many I had. I looked it up. I had about 50-ish. So I thought, okay, I'm going to change this. And over the next year, I'm going to really focus on my sponsoring efforts and be super intentional. And that's what I did. So I doubled my frontline in a year. And I had over 100 frontline in a year of having that conversation. And it might sound intimidating, and I get it. But one time I was at Mastermind. Has anyone in this room ever been to Mastermind conference? It's a great conference. It's a network marketing conference. So you have tons of different people from the network marketing world. And during one of the sessions, lots of very successful network marketers took the stage and shared their recruiting numbers. They actually shared their stats of how many people they sponsored throughout their careers. They were throwing out these huge numbers. And I was sitting in the audience like, oh my God, that's crazy. How do they sponsor 400? How do they sponsor 800? But after they all shared their large numbers, they actually shared what their monthly average was. And you know their monthly average was between 1.8 and 2.6. So that means that the average, most successful people in network marketing, what we do, are averaging about 2 recruits a month. Doesn't that sound a lot more manageable? It's not about necessarily the big picture, it's about the day-to-day and the consistency in your sponsoring. So focusing on wide growth doesn't need to be something you do during incentive season or when you just feel like working your business. Focusing on growing wide needs to be a consistent lifestyle that you lead, of looking for opportunities. And sponsoring is not an art, right? Well, it is kind of an art. Sponsoring is not something you're born with, I should say, like the ability to sponsor. It's something that is a learned skill, a skill that you can develop. That's what I did. If you've ever heard my story, if you've ever watched my videos, you know that I did not start off trying to build a business and trying to sponsor people. I was actually afraid to do that. But what I did was I saw the opportunity. I knew I needed to become a better recruiter and sponsor, so I just started learning. You can develop the skill to become a strong recruiter. So I want you to do that. I want you to go home and dig in. If you feel like this is an area where you're weak and you do need to focus more on wide growth, learn more about it. One of my favorite books is Mary Christensen's How to Be a Recruiting Superstar. That was the first book I ever read on recruiting, and I still think it's the best. So develop those skills, focus on just the conversations every month, being consistent in it, and you're gonna find that, oh my God, last year I averaged 1.8 recruits a month, and then the next year, I averaged 2.6 new consultants a month. You're gonna notice that your consistent average is gonna increase when your consistent conversations increase. Because we can't control the outcome, we can only control our own efforts. Okay, so number 2, best practice. Walk the talk. We gotta lead from the front, guys. You cannot be in this class right now telling me that you wanna identify and build leaders if you're not doing your own work you need to be doing. There is zero excuse, and I might ruffle some feathers right now, but I'm gonna be serious. There's no excuse that us as leaders will go a month without having our 500 PRV in. That is our minimum requirement. To be a lead consultant and above and be paid at title is 500 PRV. We have great tools at our fingertips. Every month, my Scentsy club orders alone are more than 500 in PRV. You can do that. 500 PRV. You need to lead from the front. You cannot have your team dragging you along. You've got to be the engine, not the caboose. So 500 PRV every month, no excuses. And make sure that when you are doing shout outs in your team or maybe in your Marco Polo chat or whatever you have to communicate with your team, make sure that you're including your numbers so they see that you are consistently performing as well, that you are being the engine. You need to be consistent in your sponsoring, which again goes back to your conversations. If you're having consistent conversations, you're going to be consistently welcoming people to your team page, and your team is going to see that. Or you're going to be consistently welcoming people to your group chat or wherever it is that you communicate with your team at this point. You guys have a check mark already. You're here. Attend events. You've got to attend events to be leading from the front. And here you are. So pat yourself on the back. You're doing a good job. I love it. Earning incentives. Who in this room earned at least level 1 of the slingshot incentive? Yay. That's how you lead from the front, guys. That's how you do it. Congratulations. All right, you need to be earning incentives that Scentsy puts out. You need to be knowledgeable about our products, our company, our comp plan. You have to know these things. Now, does that mean that someone never comes to me with a question that I don't have an answer to? No, it happens. But in general, you need to have a good understanding of those things as a leader who's walking the talk. You have to remember that you as the leader are setting the pace for your whole team. So set that pace, set that standard, and you are going to see more people rising up to that standard. All right, so our third best practice for identifying and building leaders. Reward and recognize what you want repeated. Reward and recognize what you want repeated. I'm sorry if I seem out of breath. Baby Farner is like squishing my lungs. Okay, so when we talk about rewarding and recognizing what we want repeated, what I'm talking about are the actions that produce great results. Those are the things we want to reward and recognize. So when I'm talking about behaviors or actions that we would want repeated. What comes to mind? Who's got a thought on what comes to mind? What are some actions we want to reward? Being active. Yes. Okay. Somebody else. Recruiting.
Getting 500 every single month.
PRV consistency. Yes. Promoting. Yes. What? Paid a title. Yes. Sorry. Apparently I'm deaf now too. Yes. Those are all great actions that we want to see. I wrote some down as well. Things that I'm always looking for to reward and recognize. Getting active and beyond in PRV. Consistency in PRV. Because consistency speaks volumes. I'd rather work with somebody that consistently has 500 in or even consistently has 200 in versus someone who's 2,000. Nothing. 2,000. You know what I mean? Consistency speaks volumes. Paid at title. New team members. Stepping outside of their comfort zones. Sometimes you see somebody or you talk to somebody and they tell you that they've done something that you know is outside of their comfort zone. That's something you want to reward and recognize. Engagement in the team page, coming here to SFR, things like that. So what are some recognition methods that come to mind? Maybe something that your upline has done for you in the past, or maybe something that you've done for someone on your team. What's just a simple little recognition or reward that you've received or you've given?
Happy Meal.
Happy Meal, yeah.
Happy.
Happy Meal, yeah. We all like Happy Meal, right? Nobody wants bills. Happy Meal, though, we want. Yes?
Sparkle Mail.
Sparkle Mail, yeah, that's cute. Yes?
Shout outs on Facebook.
Shout outs on Facebook. Yeah. You guys wrote my presentation. See? You know this stuff. Yeah, exactly. Those are great examples. Fun Mail, that's something that I do every month. I love it. I think my team loves it. Let's see. Social media shout outs. Yep. Have you guys ever heard of cookie cards? Cheryl's cookie cards? Okay, so those are my favorite to send because they're my favorite to receive. I love those things, they're delicious. So it's just Cheryl, the first name, CHERYLS. And they have these $5 cookie cards. And there's all different types of messages, get well, thank you, things like that you can send. And what's cool is it goes direct from Cheryl's to the recipient. It's $5. I love sending those. And I love receiving those. I'm just kidding. So something else I like to do to encourage some recognition is Team Tuesday and Wahoo Wednesday. Maybe some of your upline does this or you do this. Every Tuesday, we shout out our top 10 teams based on the week's team wholesale volume. So if you're a newer leader and you're like, oh, I can't do that, just shout out the number 1 team in team wholesale volume. You don't have to shout out 5 or 10 or however many. It could just be even the number 1. It's exciting and it creates the sense of team camaraderie, which is what we all want as we are growing up and we are promoting to director and beyond, right? That's why we have, team day like today. So Wahoo Wednesday is a day on social media where we just shout out things like getting active, who's paid at title so far this month, who's PRV ranking, things like that. So it's nice to create some consistency in things like that they can look forward to once a week or even a couple times a month where you're doing some recognition. Other things that I love to do for recognition and rewarding behaviors is sending out emails or voice messages. Voice messages on Facebook, like Facebook Messenger, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to just send a quick message and say, holy cow, I just saw that you're already paid a title this month. That's awesome. Or, whoa, I just saw that your PRV jumped up. That's great. What have you been up to? Just pay attention to those little things. That's what our performance tab or our reporting tab is for. Use those reports for your advantage. And a couple times a week, or make some notes in your planner, maybe on the 5th, the 10th, the 15th. Just have a kind of schedule for when you're going to check reports and you know the things that you're looking for, and then send a few messages. It takes minutes. And if you really want to be fast, you could even copy that voice message and then send it to other people. Just don't include their name, of course. But that's a way that you can get a lot done really fast. Okay, so, and then another thing I like to do for recognition that is free is monthly featured consultant. So every single month in our group, we feature a new consultant. And that consultant is always a lead consultant or above. And they are somebody that, to me, is showing consistency and showing passion for what they're doing. So I ask them to do a quick 5 or 10 minute live. I give them like 4 questions that they know in advance they can prepare, and then they go live at their scheduled date and time. And so it's a great opportunity for people in your team to see a lot of different faces and not just see your face all the time, or other leaders. It just mixes it up and it gives fresh ideas consistently, flowing through the team. And it also is just a great way for that person to be recognized and to strengthen that person's confidence as a leader. There are so many ways that you can recognize and reward your team members' behaviors, guys. There's lots of videos about it. Find a way that speaks to you and something that you can consistently do, because that's the key here. If it's not something that you're gonna stick to, I don't even want you to start it. Like, you're gonna find the best results in everything in this business if you stay consistent with it. So don't overcommit. Identify a few things that you wanna reward and then start working forward and continue to do those. And that's when you're gonna see the best results. All right, so number 4, have realistic expectations. Have realistic expectations. Okay, and we're gonna be honest here for a second. Do you ever feel like you're the only person on your team who's hustling? I knew y'all would get that one, right? Okay, I've been there too. I understand what that feels like. I understand that frustration. So for me, knowing the facts really, really helps me to have realistic expectations about my team. And then I feel like that helps prevent frustration. Okay, so if we know that 1/3 of the people that we sponsor are going to be a consistently performing team member, only 1/3, then that helps us to have much more realistic expectations and understand that the majority of the people that we sponsor aren't here necessarily for the same reason that we are. 1/3 are gonna leave. 1/3 are gonna be doing the bare minimum, and 1/3 are gonna be motivated individuals who are consistently selling. So if you know that and you go into that with that perspective, you're going to become less frustrated when you see that the majority are not necessarily working like you would hope they would be working, right? It's just kind of the industry standard. Now, what's great is we, as leaders, can affect those numbers in a positive way based on the things we do, just like what I'm talking about here today. I guarantee that the leaders who are implementing these kinds of things like I'm talking to you about today have higher than those average stats. So it's something that we can improve. So having realistic expectations is very important as we're gonna grow. Number 5, harness the power of why. Harness the power of why. Okay, so once Orville told me, because Orville's so wise, anytime he speaks, I'm like, you guys know how that is, right? So Orville once told me that our job as sponsors is to know where our team members want to go and show them the most direct path to getting there. Our job is not to be Google, right? Our job is not to be their workstation search bar. Our job is not to answer their silly questions at 10 o'clock at night. That is not our job. Our job is to know where they want to go and show them the most direct path to getting there. So that quote has stuck with me for years, and it really changed the way I looked at my business. It really changed my perspective. And that's why it's critical that we understand why our team members are here. And honest to God, too few of us, and me, until that point, too few of us really know what our team members' whys are. Like, if you were to be honest with yourself, I bet you would say that, you know what, no, I really don't know the genuine why for all of my frontline. Because a lot of times they don't even know it, guys. And we are doing them a disservice if we, as their leaders, are not having that conversation with them and digging deep and getting them to identify what they want from their business. Because this is a vessel for us to achieve things outside of Scentsy. And while we're doing that, we achieve things within Scentsy. right? Like, as we're using Scentsy as a vessel to, say, remodel our kitchen, we could be achieving an incentive trip. You know what I mean? This is a vessel, and we are not helping them use their vessel enough. So, knowing their why also helps to keep them driven and accountable. And it helps us to, be part of that process. So, I want you to really dig deep with your frontline when you get home and have these conversations with them. It helps to start from the very beginning, when you first recruit somebody. But it's never too late to go back and have that conversation with them, especially because their why will change as their life changes and as their life evolves. So, and honestly, guys, it takes bravery for them to admit it to themselves oftentimes, to speak it out loud, to speak those goals out loud. Sometimes it's hard, and it takes them being brave. But if we're there to help them and encourage them, it makes that process a lot more easy. So, there's just, there's so much fear of failure, I feel like, and if we speak it out loud, it's like, oh, what if I fail though? And I actually admitted it to her. So we gotta be there for them to support them. So, a lot of times it's difficult to get them to nail something down, right? That's why we want to help them. Give them ideas. Help them to start off small, especially at the very beginning. If somebody joins and tells me, hey, I want to quit my job. I don't want to do my job anymore, and I want Scentsy to be the vessel to help me do that. I would tell them, that's an awesome goal, and I know we can do that together. And let's set some small goals along the way, because we don't want them to only focus on way down the line and then they get discouraged. They gotta have small victories along the way to the big victories. So give them examples, help them start small. Maybe it's just paying a power bill every month. I want you to give them ideas like that, like something specific and tangible. And once you come up with something, that's when from there you would say, all right, let's work on seeing you have this happen 3 times oh my gosh, I can't talk. 3 months in a row. After 3 months in a row, let's move on to a new goal, something a little bigger, a little meatier. That is how you do that. And what's helpful too is to break it down for them. Maybe for them it's paying a power bill, and that's $200 a month or something. Break that down for them and help them see, okay, so if that's how much you want to make, here's how we can do that. And show them a PRV only route and a team building route. We know 99% of the route, or 99% of the time, the easier route is going to be the team building route, right? We physically only have so many hours in a day, hours in a week that we can work our business. We can't be selling wax 24/7, right? But if we have a team, it's a more intelligent way to get to that income place that they need to. So show them that, help them see that building a team is a better way to achieve their goals, even from the very beginning. Okay, so number 6, coaching calls. You guys have probably heard a lot about coaching calls, right? Especially if you were at leadership, we talked about that a lot. That's because it's very important. How are we going to, the second part of this, how are we going to develop leaders without having coaching calls? How is something going to be developed there? It's not. One-on-ones create accountability, they create connection, they help to create goals, all of that through your one-on-ones. Through my one-on-ones, I have seen great success in growing leaders. It's something I wish I would have started doing a long time ago and started doing consistently a long time ago. But honestly, it scared me. It kind of intimidated me. Does the thought of one-on-one coaching calls intimidate anyone in the room? Yeah, I get it. It intimidated me too, because a lot of times we just believe that lie that we don't have value to share, and ooh, they're gonna get me on the phone, and what if they ask me a question that I can't really help them with because I'm kind of weak in that area myself. We start self-doubting ourselves. But the way I do it, and the way I'm going to encourage you to do it, really helps to prepare you in advance, and so you feel a lot more confident going into your one-on-ones, which really helps. Okay, so first let's talk about how we identify the people that we want to have one-on-one coaching calls with. So, what do you think we're looking for when we're looking for people we want to have one-on-ones with? Consistency and PRV. Same things we want to reward and recognize, right? Consistency and PRV. Maybe a new recruit, their first recruit, or consistency in sponsoring. Just kind of general hustle general engagement in the team. They're getting on team trainings, things like that. These are people that you can tell are somebody that you could partner with and work with because clearly they have a focus. So I have found one of the worst things you could do is just reach out and say, hey, I want to have a one-on-one coaching call with you. A lot of times they feel intimidated by that. Saying the words coaching call to them, oftentimes the first time, can feel a little intimidating, like they're going to get some constructive criticism. We don't necessarily always love the idea of getting constructive criticism, right? So I found a much better approach. Once I've identified who I want to have a one-on-one with, then I reach out to them and say something along the lines of this. Oh my gosh, Susie, you have been killing your PRV recently. Like, I want to know more about what you have been up to. How you been getting all this PRV? You're amazing. I want to set up a time where I can chat with you, and I want to pick your brain, and I want to learn more from you, and I want to learn how I can better help you too. I see some really great things happening for you. Are you free to chat this week for maybe 20 or 30 minutes? And it's important that you try to set a goal of the time in which you'd like to talk. Today, or Tuesday, or Thursday. Like, throw it out there to be a little more time specific, and that will really help as well. You don't want to be vague and just be like, oh, you want to talk sometime this month. Try to be a little more specific when you reach out and you offer that one-on-one. So I have found an app that I love that I use to schedule all my one-on-ones, keep it nice and organized. So it's called Calendly. So basically the word calendar, but you replace the AR with an LY. Calendly. And it's a free app. You can choose from 15-minute, 30-minute, or 1-hour increments of like scheduled time blocks that you're available to talk. So at the beginning of the month, you pick all of your dates and times that you are available for your one-on-one coaching calls. So you can pre-plan that, or you can even do it a week at a time, whatever works for you and your schedule. So then you would literally just send that link to them, and they would just pick the date and time that works for them. You get an email, they get an email, and it's all set up. And I make them accountable. I make them call me at the scheduled time of our coaching call. That puts them in the driver's seat. Once they schedule our one-on-one, then I send them a link to a online, I send them a link to an online form, and that online form is what helps me to be prepared for our one-on-one coaching call and more confident going into our one-on-one coaching call. So I have several different forms, and these are forms that Superstar Director Chloe Cox has shared, and I have tweaked a little bit to suit my needs, and they're all made through Google Forms. I have copies of all of them, and I will put them up here. You guys are free to come up, take pictures of them, look at them, and then you can create your own at home. Google Forms are free, they're easy to use. Send them the link, they fill it out online, the results come to you, and then you can print it off. So there's questions on here like, what are you struggling with in your business right now? So that way you know when you're going into this one-on-one what your areas of focus need to be. So if they say like, oh man, I'm really struggling with PRV right now, and you just feel like, oh gosh, I'm kind of struggling with PRV myself right now. Like, how am I going to coach her on this? Do a little research. Prepare for the call. Watch a couple videos. Get some ideas and some inspiration prior to that call. You know that that's not only going to help her or him, but that's going to help you too. So I love the forms because it allows me to feel confident going into it because I know what our focuses need to be and I can prepare accordingly. Doesn't that kind of take some of the scariness out of the one-on-ones? Yes, I think so. Okay, so I use the Google Forms. All right, so now I want to ask you guys, off the top of your heads, I'm going to give you a minute or so, probably less because I have so much to say. I'm going to give you guys a minute. I want you to think about what we've talked about here with the coaching calls. Who comes to mind in your team that you think, I bet that's somebody I could partner with. I bet that's somebody, maybe a couple people, that you could partner with and really have these one-on-ones with. And I want you to write their name down in your notebook. And if nobody comes to mind, that's okay. You check your reports later and you look for some things. You look for those things that we just discussed. But I want you to go home with at least one person written down from your team that you are going to be intentional to extend this offer to. and work one-on-one alongside with. You can tell them I told you you had to, whatever makes you comfortable. And that needs to be part of your action plan when you go home. Don't let the fear and the negative thinking come in and tell you you're not good enough and tell you, oh, I don't have anything to share. I'm not going to do it for one-on-one. You need to. If you want to identify and develop leaders, if you want to help other people reach their goals, it is a critical part of that. So we just got to kick that fear to the curb. All right, so number 7. Have a system for tracking performance. System for tracking performance. You can't rely on your memory alone, guys. We have too many things going on, so you need to have some kind of system in place that you use to track all of this stuff. So what I do is I just have a notebook at home. It's a big binder. Every single person in my front line is in that binder. They all have their own mentor guide, which this is actually on one of my training videos called Helping New Scentsy Team Members Find Success. It's a video on my YouTube channel. This Dropbox file is actually in the video description, so you could literally steal this exact document and use it. I will put it again up here for you guys to look at the end. But I use this form from the very beginning. When they join, it helps me through their 70 days coaching process and beyond. So in my frontline notebook, every single person in my frontline is in there, and they are all sorted by title. I also add in there the people I'm doing one-on-ones with, because guess what? It's not always my frontline that I'm doing one-on-ones with. Sometimes there's somebody who's a 0.2 or a 0.4 or a 0.6 that I see all these great things in, and I offer my support. So anybody I'm working with is in that notebook, and they're all sorted by title, like I said, and I use clear sheet protectors for each one of these so they stay nice and fresh and clean. And then every time we have a one-on-one coaching call and they fill out a form, it gets tucked right in there with, in their little sheet protector. So it keeps it nice and organized, and it's a very important part of these coaching calls, because if you're not making notes, and because you end these coaching calls giving them a challenge, giving them a goal to achieve over the next 30 days. And if you're not writing down said goal, if you're not writing down what you guys discussed and what they're going to be working on and what their why is and those kinds of things, if you didn't write those things down and you're just relying on this to remember it, the next day when you have a one-on-one with somebody else, you're going to start getting those things confused. It starts to become a mess. You've got to have a system. So whether you do a binder system like me, or whether you have it in an Excel spreadsheet or something, you have to have some system in place to track this. And you're going to get way better results that way. It's honestly been a huge help for me, having that system. So find a system. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay. So number 8, build their belief in themselves. Build their belief in themselves. Okay. Who in this room would admit that they, right now, or sometime in the past, has been afraid of failing at something? Yes, right? Every single one of us. So, if we've all been honest, we will admit that yes, we have been afraid of failing at something at some point in our lives, if not right this very minute. So, as you can imagine, every single person on your team feels that way too, either about Scentsy or about something else in their life at this time. So, as sponsors, as people who are coaching and developing and mentoring our team members, we have to believe in them until they believe in themselves. Earlier, I was at Leadership and during reunion, I think. They talked about on the forehead, how everybody's forehead, imagine that they say, make me feel special. I feel like this is it's along the same strain of thought, but it's make me believe in myself, right? MMBIM, make me believe in myself. I think that everybody in our team, especially those that we have identified that we can work with, we have got to imagine that that's what it says on their foreheads. We have got to make them believe in themselves and be their cheerleaders until they feel confident enough to do that themselves. So our language is really important. We have got to consistently be lifting these people up. And side note, it's hard to lift people up, and and pour into other people if you're empty. So you gotta be making sure you're filling your cup too. Side note. But yes, we have got to compliment them. We have to identify their strengths and know what is great about them. What is great about how they are impacting their team and what assets they bring to the table, and consistently be sharing those things with them and lifting them up. When our team members know that we have their backs and that we're there, they are going to be much more willing to leap for greater goals and to pursue greater goals, because they feel comfortable and confident, and like even if they fail, you're still there. You're still there to help them pick up those pieces. Because guess what? We are not gonna achieve every goal we set out to achieve in this business. It's not gonna happen. We're not gonna make it all. We're not gonna achieve every trip. We're not gonna earn every top 100. We're not gonna do those things. And so if we ourselves understand that and know that we need to be that support for our teams when they fall short of a goal, it's really gonna help them feel more confident to spread their own wings and fly and pursue goals. Okay, so number 9 is delegate. Delegate. Everybody in this room, I guarantee, would say that they are busy, right? I don't think anyone ever says, no, I'm not a busy person. I just really sit around and watch a lot of TV. That's all I do all day. Everybody's busy. We have made our lives be so busy. It's craziness. We're all busy. I get it. And that is the number one thing I hear people say on one-on-one coaching calls and just in general. Oh, I don't have time for this. I'm too busy. I'm not software retreating. Busy. I get it. So it is more critical than ever, as our lives have become busier and busier, it is more critical than ever that we are delegating the tasks that don't need our hands, and that we are focusing on income producing tasks. What are some examples of income producing tasks that come to mind? Somebody just give a shout out one. What is that? Yes. Follow up, join conversations? Exactly. Yes, follow up, join conversations. Other examples would be talking to a hostess, actually partying, actually doing events, pursuing bookings, things like that. Those are income producing tasks. Non-income producing tasks are things like making samples. You might love it. You might love it and make them all fancy and cute, but that is a time suck. You gotta make them fast. You gotta make them simple if you're gonna be the one doing it, right? Because that's not the income producing task. The income producing task is giving the sample, having the conversation, getting that information back from that person. That's the income producing portion of it. Other non-income producing tasks, organizing your office, bagging orders, labeling product, preparing fun mail for your team or your customers. Now, I'm not saying that that's not important stuff. It is, and I do it all, but I delegate it all. Because we need to focus on coaching calls, all those income producing tasks that we talked about a moment ago. So you might be sitting there thinking, oh, well, that's all well and good, but I can't do that. Yes, you can. Find a neighborhood teenager. A neighborhood teenager, your own children, a great customer, a family member, a spouse, somebody who is willing to help you do those simple, small tasks to free you up to do the more important things that you need to be doing. And oftentimes these people will be happy to just be paid in Scentsy. Offer them a little product credit. Offer them bar of the cent of the month. It doesn't even have to be something that you are literally giving them cash for, but delegate it. I want you to think about this when you go home and ask a couple people. Find somebody to delegate those non-income producing tasks to, so you can free up your time, your precious time, to do what you need to be doing. All right, so number 10, I'll have to close out fast. Told you I had a lot of stuff. Number 10 is pay close attention to what you are projecting. Pay close attention to what you are projecting. Think about the last 6 months. Over the last 6 months, what is the impression that you are giving to your team about leadership with Scentsy? Are you making it look stressful, or are you making it look fun? Are you making it look like a lot of extra work and hassle, or are you making it look like a blessing? Are you sharing success stories from within your own team and even outside of your own team, or are you not? Are you sharing your own struggles? Because you're not perfect, right? We don't want them to think we're perfect. Pay attention to what you're projecting, because you're your team's direct eyesight. So Scentsy leadership is you. So what do they see when they look at you? Do they think, oh God, she looks so stressed all the time, I don't want to do what she does. Oof. Or do they think, oh, she spends so much money on all this stuff for her team, I don't want to do that, I can't do that. Or do they think, oh, she's perfect, I can never live up to that. You don't want your team thinking those things. You want your team to think, ooh, I want to do what she does. Ooh, that looks great. Ooh, they're watching you. So what are you projecting, guys? They are either going to be drawn to being a leader, or they're going to be pushed away from being a leader. So those are my 10 best practices for identifying and building leaders. It's a lot of information, and it might be a lot of potential change. Maybe you're already doing some of these things, maybe you're not. But what I want you to do is go home and take it one step at a time. The consistency is the most important thing here. I would rather you go home and only implement one thing from this class, but do it for the next year, than implement 10 things from this class and do them for a week. Okay? So bite size, do a little at a time, and start implementing it. And I know that this is going to happen. Thank you guys.